Alright, so what I've got done here so far is this is the upper radiator hose. This is an 1.5-inch hose, and I need to reduce it down to, I believe this is right around, this is a 2-inch hose, and this is a 1.5-inch hose. What I did was I got a 2-inch exhaust pipe from a local parts store, put a reducer, an exhaust reducer on it, and then basically slid it up inside. Also, I've got my intake crossover pipe done. This engine did not come with a crossover pipe. I ordered a 2-inch elbow on eBay for this and also this one. It came with the 4 clamps, and then I went to the auto parts store and got a 2-inch exhaust pipe, and that slid right inside. This right here is a same thing. It's a 2-inch piece of exhaust pipe welded onto a flange. This right here you'll need is a 2-inch flange. Purchased that off eBay. It came with the V-clamp that went along with it. Then on the turbo intake side, ordered a 3-inch elbow off of eBay. I did have to trim. I went ahead and trimmed a little bit off of here just to kind of push my pipe this way to kind of give me clearance off of my filter. This right here is a 3-inch piece of exhaust pipe, and here's my filter. This will actually, this filter is made for a 3, 3.5, and a 4-inch pipe. This is a 3-inch pipe. It goes right in. They've got different sizes on this boot that you can take in or out to get you whatever size that you're putting in. I use that epoxy once again on my joint. Filled this up with epoxy on the inside and also on the inside, slid them together and then squished out any extra, and that's going to form a nice tight seal there. You can weld that if you wanted to, or braze it if you wanted to as well. Next project I'm working on is making my brackets for my alternator. This is going to be basically my alternator bracket, and alternator is going to mount somewhere in here, and then now I'm working on my AC compressor bracket. Here's some information for you. It took me 3 times of ordering the right V-band and flange and clamp for my turbo outlet. This is going to go to the exhaust pipe. What I was measuring was the actual outside ridge and also this ridge. What you need to do is the outlet on your turbo, measure what size pipe would actually slide up into the turbo on the exhaust discharge side. That opening is what you will order online, okay? So if a 2.5-inch pipe will slide up in there, you need to order a 2.5-inch flange and V-band clamp. That'll get you what you need. This is the 2-inch pipe, which is right here, except the flange here is a little bit wider than what's on the turbo. So all I did was I took this to the grinder and I just ground down this outside edge, maybe about 1/16 of an inch all the way around, and then it fit perfect, and that V-band clamp actually holds that extremely nice and tight. So don't do what I did. Had to order 3 of these to get the right size. This HX30W, the outlet discharge side of the turbo, you need a 2.5-inch V-band, flange, and clamp. Now what that's going to do is you're only going to be able to run a 2.5-inch pipe, which will slide in here, 2.5-inch exhaust pipe, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce that, or actually expand that up to this right here. So this is going to hook onto the 2.5-inch pipe, and then from there I'm going to run a 3-inch pipe just off of the turbo. It's going to go down and then turn and then go all the way out to the tailpipe. So, alright, so what I'm doing right now is I'm making a template for my air conditioner bracket. Basically I've just used some cardboard to kind of get all this mocked up in place. As you can see, my alternator is going to there's that other little recessed screw. It sits about right there. That's where that bracket's going to go down and cut that off. And then what I've done here is I went ahead and carried that over and found my holes that are on that thermostat housing. That's what my 3/8" plate is going to bolt to. I'm going to take this here, lay it on my 3/8" plate of steel and drill these through holes, and then basically then my air conditioner is going to mount to that. Alright, so I've got my bolts. I don't know if you can see that or not, but got them center punched out. Took a laid that piece of cardboard on top of this, punched the holes. Now I'm going to lay it up here on the drill press, and I'm going to get these drilled out right quick. Alright, so what I'm doing now is I'm getting everything lined up for my serpentine belt. There's a couple different ways that you could probably do this. This seemed to be the easiest for me. So what I've done is I went ahead and zip tied a nice straight level to my crankshaft, put a zip tie around it, and then I put my tape measure in the last groove there, and it reads 1.25 inches. Then I've come up here to my water pump pulley, zip tied it again, make sure that that's all aligned, and then here's my alternator. And what I'm doing is I'm putting this in the same location on my crankshaft pulley as I am this one, putting in the last groove, and it's showing to be 1.25 inches. Now what I've done is I've checked it on this side along with this side, and that ensures that my alternator isn't cocked from one side to the other. I've just got it temporarily held in place. I've also, on my bracket down here, I've got it just, I don't know if you can see this or not, I'm going to elaborate on this a little bit more, but I've got some washers in here, and that allows me to slide my alternator in and out if I need to. And then what I'll do is I've got everything kind of held in place with some temporary, with some vice grips, make sure everything's good. Also too, want to have everybody do this. I'm going to show this mount down here underneath my alternator. This here is actually bolted to the lower radiator housing. This dial, or angle indicator, as you guys remember, if I set this on the engine, I'm sitting at a 5-degree angle. So I brought that down on this before I drilled the hole, set that at a 5-degree angle. Then that way everything's in play, in line. And then before I drilled these holes, I put this angle indicator on this one too, and then went ahead and drilled those holes. That way everything is sitting at the right angle, and I know that if I get my bolt holes screwed in there just right, and if I get my air conditioner alternator on there, I might just have a little bit of tweaking to do, but everything should be right in place. Something to look at too is this, where your belt tensioner mounts to right here. This is going to be cut off right here so the belt tensioner can sit right here, but this is sitting just a little bit outside that. I'll put a zip tie in there just to give me a little bit of a shim to get my distance out where I need it on here and down here, and everything's lining up. So that's my alternator, and then my air conditioner, which is going to mount right here. I'll do the same thing. I'll just reposition my level down a little bit further and bring it straight up through here on my air conditioner to get it aligned properly. Alright, so here's my alternator bracket mount that I made. Basically what we've got here, this is 3/16 inch steel by 3 inches in diameter. I drilled a couple of holes, and these are the 2 bolt holes that actually get mounted to the lower radiator outlet. So that's where those 2 bolts go. Now this right here is your 3/16 by 3 inch channel that I've already mocked up and figured out where I need my measurements. Drilled a couple holes through there, and I'm going to be placing a couple bolts in here, and I went ahead and put a little bit of blue Loctite on there. We'll get those bolted in place, and this bolt right here is the bolt that actually holds your factory GM alternator in place. Now within here I'm going to have about 3 or 4 washers. This allows me to slide the alternator back and forth and make my final adjustment. And if I have to, got a little bit of wiggle room to actually get my pulley 100% lined up. And this was my first one here. I did mess up on it, had to redo it, but basically this is what it was. And then in order to get the alternator to pivot about 140 degrees, I went ahead and ground these edges off, and that way it just pivots on there to make my final adjustment. Alright, so here's my alternator. I've got a couple stainless steel bolts in with some blue Loctite. I've got 4 or 5 washers on the inside here to get whatever distance I need. I can make my final adjustments this way by adding or subtracting washers. This wheel, I've got this a little snug. That way, once I do get this in place, I can do the final tighten on this bottom, and it will go ahead and hold that alternator nice and tight. Alright, so I've got my air conditioner mounted where I need it. Basically what I've done here, guys, is just, once again, I've checked my measurement from each pulley, make sure that my level is touching my crankshaft pulley, my water pump pulley, and then also measuring from here to there, which is 1 1/4. Now remember that I am using the factory GM belt. I'm not going to be using the Cummins belt. So what that means is, as you can see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think it's an 8 rib, and then this is 6 rib. So the belt is going to be a little bit narrower, but by doing that, I don't have to change out my alternator. I know I could probably change out the pulley on the alternator, but my air conditioner pulley, that's going to have to stay the same. So basically I've lined this up. I've got everything in place. And I'm taking another measurement. If I can do this with 2 hands here. Basically what I'm looking at is 1 1/4 inches. So each pulley on the back rib, I place the tape measure in the back valley of the back rib, and that's where I've taken my measurement on every pulley, and it's come out just about right. I've had to make some adjustments on this right here. I've had to move it this way or this way and in and out, but basically it should be just about perfect. This is going to be really simple. This is the factory aluminum bracket that actually bolted to the Chevrolet 350. I actually took a bandsaw and basically cut that flat. Just cut that off, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 2, maybe 3 grade 8 by, I don't know, maybe 1/4 inch, not 1/4, but probably 7/16, and bolt it to this 3/8 inch plate here that I've got. This 3/8 inch plate is 6 inches by 6 inches. Is that right? 6 inches by, maybe that's 9, by 9 inches. 6 inches by 9 inches. And boy, it's going to be really good. The hood's going to shut and clear, no problem. If I have to, for some reason, if you guys get into it and it doesn't work out, you can actually drop this down about another inch and you shouldn't have any troubles. This right here is where your air conditioner lines are going to hook up, and I'm going to have a couple new lines made for that, but everything is lined up just about perfect. So hopefully it helps somebody out.